Okay, this is Tony Cataldo, and we have another interview of how alcohol has affected this young lady's life. The Desi-Drvr, who, what, when, where, and why. So, what is your name?
Paula.
Paula. Okay, Paula. And what happened, Paula?
I've lost several people, a couple of family members. One was due to his drinking, and he
Okay.
killed himself.
Oh, man.
And then I also have lost two people that were, I grew up with the one, he was like a brother, two drunk drivers hitting them.
Oh, man.
But the one story I would really like to share is one that it was on New Year's Eve. It was actually the morning of New Year's Eve. And this was probably about, I would say, let's see, back probably about 30 years ago. And I had injured myself at work, not realizing it, was having a breathing issue. And I went to the ER. And I'm sitting in the emergency room, and this was in San Jose, in a big town. And this was, like I said, again, in the morning, and it wasn't the wee hours. This was like 10 in the morning.
Okay.
And the hardest part for me is that I was sitting there, and I heard some noises next to me, and I saw, kind of the bottom of a uniform. I could tell it was a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the sudden, from down the hall, I heard the most blood-curdling scream I have ever heard in my life. And I still to this day hear that scream. And I ended up finding out that a mother and father were just driving. They had their two children in the car, a 2-year-old little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the baby was a little boy, not even a few months old. And the blood-curdling scream was because somebody decided to start drinking that morning to celebrate New Year's, hit their car head on. There was nothing, he was in the hospital just to be checked out. There was nothing wrong with him. The blood-curdling scream,
The person that was driving?
the person that was driving,
Okay.
nothing was wrong with him. From what I could tell, they were doing blood draw for alcohol level. The blood-curdling scream was from the mother. The 2-year-old was killed instantly, and they lost the baby too. So they lost both their children. And
Oh, she was pregnant with the baby?
No.
Okay.
They were in car seats in the back of the car.
2 kids
He
in the car.
hit right where the 2-year-old was.
Oh my God.
And he hit and impacted them so hard that it affected the baby. I believe the baby was only a couple months old, and the baby suffered injuries as well.
Oh,
and they were trying to save the baby, and they couldn't either. And it's just a blood-curdling scream that you will
That wasn't
never...
anybody that you knew, but it was in the hospital.
No. And the thing that gets me the most is that, I mean, I did not know these people at all. And just hearing this blood-curdling scream from a mother, and to this day, I still can't get that scream,
You could feel it, yeah.
Yeah, and it just, the impact that you can make in your choices of doing any kind of a substance and getting behind the wheel of a vehicle, doing anything like that, drinking and watching a child, drinking and doing anything, it takes you out of your senses. Even just one beer, one anything can take you out of your senses enough to cause harm and death to someone else.
Yeah.
And, I will admit, it took all my strength at that point. Both the officers, from what I could tell, I'm pretty sure they chained him to the hospital bed because the guy was complaining. Both officers ran down the hall when she was screaming. And I am not a violent person. I do not like violence. I will say it took every fiber in my being not to get up out of that bed and just go over there. I didn't know what on earth I
Yeah.
would have done, but I
Yeah.
just shake him. I don't know. Just because I could tell he didn't even care. He wasn't even in a mindset to even care, that not even knowing that scream was because of him. Someone just lost their 2 children, a mother and
Wow.
father,
And they didn't.
just lost their
He
children.
didn't feel what was real.
Didn't know anything.
Right. Wow.
He was over there complaining that the officers weren't being nice. Why is these people poking me with needles? And he was just going on, and all he cared about was himself.
Wow.
And
that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
And it was really hard. My mom came to get me from the ER. She dropped me off, and when she picked me up, when I was crying, she goes, "Oh, what's wrong? What'd they say?" And I couldn't even tell her for about an hour or two, and then I finally was able to tell her what happened, and both of us just sat there and cried. Yeah, I had at that time I had my son and my daughter, and just the thought of losing them, and the thought of hearing that, it was just,
wow, you'll never forget it.
Never.
So when was this, Paula?
This was I think this was like 1990, 1991.
Okay, and then that's the who, what, when, and where was this?
In San Jose, California.
Okay. I grew up in Walnut Creek, California, not far from there. I know where that is.
Yep.
Who, what, when, where, and why do you think that this happened? Just share with the young people. They have no clue of how cause and effect is. And that's what this is all about, having them have reference legs to why things that are, crazy, insane, how did these things happen? So why do you think how do you think that happened? Explain to the young people how a nightmare scenario like that, or the folks that you lost, your family members, how did that work? How did that start?
Honestly, I guess to say, we've all been there. We've all been young. We've all been curious. We've all thought of, I can't wait until I'm 21 and I can drink. But the thing you got to remember is, with that privilege comes a huge amount of responsibility. And the responsibility falls on you, nobody else. And my brother-in-law, he was drinking. He had heard some false information from someone, made him upset. He went drinking. He almost had my sister and my 2 nephews in the car when he crashed, and it would have killed all of them.
Wow.
And it did not kill him. And long story short, they did not end up pulling the plug on him. He was brain dead at the scene. And they did not end up pulling the plug. They slowly weaned him off the respirator, and his body basically ate away at itself for over a year.
Wow.
He was in a coma. He never came out of it. He was a vegetable. And before he passed away, he looked like a Holocaust victim.
Wow.
And that lady, it's like, you can't take that back. That is something that you cannot take back. It's not a video game. It's not anything that you can take back, that you can hit replay, that you can hit pause. You're responsible for that. And don't be afraid to stop a friend, stop somebody that's trying to get into a car drunk, even if it just means getting a license plate and calling the police. Don't be afraid to stop them. Just stop them. I've stopped a lot of friends from drunk driving. I used to be the designated driver all the time.
Nice.
And if I would have had equipment like this, now I know a lot of kids probably see videos of, aha, that's so funny, look at those people, blah. If I would have had equipment,
legs.
Yeah, in order to be able to video my friends when I was the designated driver, and the stuff that I watched from them, trust me, it might be funny when you see somebody else, but when it's you that they're filming doing that, it's not very funny. You don't think that's funny, and you don't want everybody else seeing it, because you realize, wow, okay, that's like embarrassing, not funny.
Right.
And yeah, I was really happy that I was a designated driver.
It's fun.
I didn't grow up with alcoholic parents or anybody in my family that was like that. I had a lot of friends that were, and it does come down to a choice. And just remember that before you think of picking up that drink or picking up any kind of a substance, take a moment and think what can happen. And remember, at that moment, you're taking responsibility for anything that happens after that point.
As we get older, we learn to set parameters based on what we would like to have happen in our life.
Yeah.
When you're randomly trying things that don't have any parameters, it's not really an accident. It's just a matter of when something's going to happen, because you're letting it happen randomly. When you get older, you realize, gosh, I didn't see that coming, and you're going to start looking for things coming, and that way you can prevent nightmare scenarios. I mean, when you're young, you're full of testosterone. You think you're bulletproof, everything's wonderful, everything was easy as a kid. Well, you got to start cause and effect. You got to start thinking about, what am I doing, and what is it going to cause, and who is it going to affect? And so but yeah. And then what would you say, any advice to young people about the subject of alcohol, Paula?
Well, I have, I have a brother that's in AA. I have another brother, and I love both of them dearly. I'm very proud of my brother that's in AA. My other brother, I am worried about. I have a rare kidney disease, and he's back here in the States, but he was leaving to go abroad. And before he left, all I could think to myself, I was watching him, and we didn't let him have his water bottle that was full of alcohol for several hours. And he was shaking so violently, couldn't, he was trying to eat, and the food's just like going everywhere because he was shaking so violently. And all I could think to myself is, you're the closest thing I have if I ever need a kidney transplant.
Right.
I can't give you one.
Right.
And that's, I didn't say that to him, but that's what I was thinking is, wow, I can't give you one.
He's blowing your chance of never even getting help.
Yeah, and it's not even blowing my chance. I'm just sitting here like, I can't even help you, and you're blowing it for this reason.
Right.
And the other thing too is, you'd be amazed how many people you think when you're younger are older. And then you realize, oh, wow, they're maybe only a few years older than you, but they look like they're about 20 years older than you.
Right.
And it's the physical effects of drinking, smoking, doing drugs. It ages you really fast, way faster than what normal things can do. And also, I think the thing to also remember is that nothing in this world is permanent. Nothing lasts forever. Right. That includes us, that includes anything, and showing love and kindness, I think, is far more important than being cool and drinking, having a drink with the buddies or doing something else. Being the one, do you want to be the one that finds out you killed someone? Or that you hurt or maimed someone, that you changed all these people's lives, and it's going to change your life and your family's life as well?
Right.
Or do you want to be the one that can sit there and say, I made sure they didn't drive home drunk. Who knows who I just saved right now?
Right.
Who knows if I just saved them or if I just saved someone else from something happening, and a tragedy happening. So, think about your choices and before you decide to make them.
Right. Well, therein lies the challenge. And your words are gold, and your stories are, I'm sorry for the losses. I'm sorry for the experiences. That's part of life, is that you're thrown into it and you get to sink or swim. And the sooner that you make better choices, good choices that other people have made, it's not like people, there's a lot of people that make good choices and they have a good life. It's not all nightmare scenario for everybody, you know what I mean? But you learn as you go, but you do have to set parameters, and your words are awesome, Paula. Thank you so much, and your stories, and and it makes you grow up, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
These experiences really make you sober and
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh my God, you start to see things rather than not see things. The
Yeah.
older I get, the more visual I am about seeing what's coming, and that's what we're trying to do, is have young people learn and see about other people's experiences so that we don't have this repeat cycle. Oh gosh, nobody warned me about that. Well, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help based on other
Yeah.
people's experiences. And I'm so done with it being an automatic wading into the drinking pool. And I appreciate your words. And you have a great the rest of your life, Paula.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.